waiting for others to join, we might as well at least kick off the formalities and then we can get going. We are also expecting the DPW tonight, but Kevin hasn't appeared yet, so it is only exactly 7 o'clock now, so it's not as if we're going really late. But at least I can kick off the formalities, and if Kevin hasn't joined by the time we're there, then we can start off with the audience that I've got. So let's get going. Hello, Kate. Thanks for calling in. Okay. So let me call this meeting to order. This meeting of the Dover Warrant Committee is being conducted remotely in accordance with the temporary provisions of the Open Meeting Law. We are convening via video conference using the Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, so take caution what you show on the screen, as others may be able to see it. Anything you broadcast may be captured by the recording. To open the meeting, can I get a roll call of members in attendance? Woody Weiss?
Present.
Peter Smith?
Here.
Jerry Chen?
Present.
Janet McCormack?
Here.
Sarah Cadenia Kinney?
Here.
Marty Howard?
Here.
And we have Robin Hunter, who is our liaison from the Board of Selectmen. Thank you for joining, Robin.
My pleasure.
So just to get things moving, I think we might just jump straight into your proposal for the fire budget, so fire and ambulance budget. So
Sure.
Who is going to lead off on that?
I will give that.
Phil's the chief's going to do it, but just so for the record, Jim Dolly is here, Kate Canny, and I'm Ford Spalding, but we'll turn it over to the chief.
Thank you, Ford. Paul Lutazzi here. On the fire budget, we did our budget with a recommended 3% increase. So that would be the fire. Mm-hmm. And for our ambulance, we did the same with a recommended 3% increase. And we also asked for some extra monies for salaries for our weekend ambulance coverage. Peter Smith has been to several meetings. I'm sure he shared that with you people. So, I mean, that's where we stand with our budgets.
That's it?
Well, yeah.
You might want to go into just the stipend, why we're doing it. And
you got it. So, last year we asked for an increase for stipends for daytime weekdays. And what that took the coverage for the Dover Fire Ambulance is from roughly 76% of coverage during the weekdays to almost, if not 97%. So we feel that would work the same for the weekends. So we had asked for a stipend for that of $35,000. That should cover the rest of the, weekends, daytime for the year. Okay. So that would give you a paid stipend Monday through Sunday, 7 to 7.
If I may, thank you, Chief. From a Board of Fire Engineers position, we were very concerned about coverage. And we talked about this at length during the year. And we saw the results of that first stipend increase. We were so pleased that we fully endorse this additional monies for the other the additional monies.
Okay. Do I have any questions from the board of from the Warrant Committee or from Robin? And the rest of the budget is all stable as well?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, level funded, correct.
Okay, so if everything is level funded, Peter, does it make sense for us to vote on this right now and get it resolved? No?
Let's defer.
Okay. Okay. Then let's defer that.
Okay,
But wow, we've got so many representatives, and we really don't have any questions for you because you've met all of our guidance. So
yep,
I'm quite happy with that. Thank you.
I thank you. Hopefully you get a yes vote.
Any other questions before we move on? Then thank you, gentlemen, for coming. I really
Right.
appreciate that, and
Thank you.
we hope that we can deliver that weekend coverage as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Quickest
Thank you,
Zoom I've
Dan.
been on all day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter, for attending our meetings. So appreciate it.
And
Oh,
Ford,
wouldn't miss
thank
it.
you. Thank you. Oh no, you're still there. Thank you so much for all your work over the years with the fire folk. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's been my pleasure. It's actually one of my favorite things I do. So
You bring enthusiasm to everything you do. You've said the same thing about the Minuteman as well. Okay. Well,
Okay,
thank you
no
very
problem.
much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Bye now.
thank you.
Take
Have a good
everyone.
evening.
So I guess, oh, and I said gentlemen, but of course Kate was there as well. I apologize for that remiss. Kevin, I think we're ready to move on to the DPW. Thank you so much for joining us,
Absolutely. Good evening.
and welcome to the Warrant Committee. So tonight we'll be going through the operating budget, and I throw the floor over to you to present. Do you want to post anything for us to see?
No, I've already shared all those documents.
Yep.
So really, the only things to really discuss, I think, this evening are the projected increases that I have, which would be for the Harvia and patchwork, and also in the solid waste expenses. Pretty much everything else is level funded. Obviously the salary increases, longevity, stuff like that. But obviously the union agreements dictate kind of that. Trees were level funded. Snow and ice was level funded. Street lights, town garage. So that really covers everything. So the request, so obviously I had a detailed write-up and submission to the warrant committee regarding the Tarvia and the reason why there was the analysis behind that for the comprehensive AI study we did basically last year, suggesting that Dover spends $800,000 annually into the road program. We did probably pretty close to that. We encumbered some funds last year, as both my pavement preservation and pavement resurfacing contracts are both calendar year. So that allows us that flexibility to do that. Obviously, we get more advantageous pricing, putting it out to bid in winter when people are trying to schedule that work. So the real reason for that increase is to meet that. It's not a realistic request or expectation that I would receive the $240,000 to get us at an $800,000 annual budget. Since I submitted, and it'll be in the newsletter, we did receive some good news that the Fair Share Act, Dover will be receiving an additional $169,000. So I'm hopeful that this request won't be multiple years and maybe just a nominal increase next year. Whereas obviously we'd be anticipating several years to kind of build this up to where that is. For perspective, asphalt prices, like anything in this world, right, are increasing. We have a 3-year service contract, so those prices are locked in. And prior to my arrival in Dover in 2021, the town was paying $74.47 for asphalt for bituminous in place. We didn't pave in 2022, as I alluded to earlier, as we did the comprehensive town-wide study to put together a robust 3-year capital improvement program. And that worked. We carried that money over and commenced that work this past summer. Our prices were $92 a ton, and our contract that I have on my desk for renewal is for $96 a ton. And to put that in perspective, there's a local consortium, Medfield, and there's like 12 or 13 other communities, and last year they were paying $98 a ton. So I'm very confident in that price that we had very advantageous pricing to renew that this coming year. So that pretty much triggers that. Obviously, we introduced last summer the pavement preservation to do a bunch of different tools in our toolbox to really expend that dollar farther and touch more road miles than we would if we were doing our traditional mill and overlay. So that is the fog seal and the crack seal that you saw on Center Street from the town center to Medfield line. The double micro service that we saw on Main and Pleasant Street. So being able to do those, we're able to touch more road miles. The ask here is that, to maintain our prestige, these are our pavement grading. It's at an 80.63, which I can assure you as your public works professional, we're probably in the 10th percentile in the Commonwealth for roadway conditions. So obviously with the support of that article, I'm going to work my hardest to keep us there. So before I move on to solid waste, I obviously would like to take any questions that you may have in addition to that.
Yeah.
Marty, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask Kevin, you mentioned the consortium, which obviously helps on the procurement side in this ranking in terms of the condition of the roads. Are there other metrics and measures that you use in the different activities that the DPW gets involved in to see where we stand in terms of are we spending more or less, or given the length of the roads or whatever baseline you might use? Is there like a third party set of data that you can use to determine whether you're on the mark, better than the mark, have some work to do, things like that?
So basically that's what that analysis did do in that study, and that's why it made that recommendation. There was a chart on there, and that's just to keep us at level service is the $800,000 a year. So obviously my goal, right, would be to have a 100 pavement condition index, but that's certainly not a realistic request.
Do your peers always want to have 100 or 80, or is it good enough to be at 70? I don't know. I'm asking sort of what's the best practice?
I have to turn that question around. That's back to the residents of the town of Dover and what. So my understanding, and Robin, she has her hand raised. She can comment on this. But when we had met prior to my arrival, the two things I was told is our paving is phenomenal and our plowing is great. Don't screw it up. So that's what I'm trying to do is improve it and enhance it and prolong the life of these roads.
Okay, thank you.
Robin, you have a question? Or at least you have your hand raised.
I do. And I have a question / comment for Kevin. So I just wanted to remind everybody that the town does get, in effect, a reimbursement for some of the tarvia through the Chapter 90 funds from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So each year, based upon a formula, we do get funding that offsets some of these costs. And I think it's around 200,000, Kevin, a little less than that.
It's typically about 279,000.
Okay.
And then the additional money that we got through the Fair Share Act, which was 169,000. So that's programmed 100% the same way, 100% reimbursed as Chapter 90 money. So that puts us at 447,000 through reimbursable program through Chapter 90.
Right. And then Kevin, I know there were a couple of years where some of the Chapter 90 funds went into, I can't think of the name of the account, the reserve,
Capital stabilization account, was it?
No, it was, oh God, for the life of me, there's some account where some of the Chapter 90 funds went. We didn't use it to offset it. So I was just wondering if we could utilize any of that surplus to help offset the spike in funding over the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and that's why instead of obviously asking for the full amount to get us up to 800,000, that's what we did.
Okay,
So I inherited a couple of years of Chapter 90 money unspent, and that's why we were able to do about $750,000 of road work this summer.
okay. So I think when you make this presentation, because I think there's an excellent chance that this line item might get put on hold. I think what needs to be emphasized is the fact that there is partial reimbursement for the cost, but because of the way municipal accounting is done, you know, you don't offset it, we fund the full amount. And that you or the DPW didn't ask for all of the funding because you were going to take advantage of some of the surplus funds that we had. And again, you know, the goal here is to maintain the streets and plowing it as the residents of Dover have become accustomed to. So, you know, certainly we could push things out, but the quality of the paving of our roads will suffer.
Right, and just to kind of add to that, also, there's a degradation curve for the condition of a roadway, right? So a road we just did, right, a couple of years that can go by, and then we do a cheaper solution through the pavement preservation, which would be a crack seal, right? And inject another 3 years to that road, or do minor patchwork and do the micro service and add another 5 to 8 years. So that's what I'm trying to do is touch as many road miles as possible with the finances that I do have. So, you know, on the other side of that coin, right, if this, you know, if this isn't supported and move forward, then, you know, and our roads, you know, they're not going to get any better, right? It's going to degrade and it's going to cost more money to replace those. So I do think an emphasis needs to be made on that.
Mhm. Yeah, that makes sense. Any other questions?
Being that there is none, then we'll move on to the other increase in my budget, which would be the solid waste expenses.
Right.
As many on this call that were on warrant last year, we did receive town meeting funding and approval for a new roll-off truck. With that said, there was a caveat that we would do a trial for a contracted hauling service, similar to what Dover did back up until that point, which I think was 96 or 97 when Dover decided to get in that business. So multiple things have happened since then, and our staff levels are as town meeting when you guys approved a couple more positions, labor positions, and an office administrator last year. We simply don't have the staff we did last year. So this increase is to cover the privatized hauling that we have contracted out with. So the long-term savings is, you know, we were able to take those vehicle expenses and put those into you know, the expense coverage of hauling this out and the cost of that. There's no amortization of the capital vehicle itself and having to replace that in 12 years, let alone the gas, the tolls, the maintenance that all would come in those 12 years.
The driver.
Correct. And then also, instead of increasing our workforce, well, we did, right? Because now the individual that was spending 4 of his 5 days a week driving that roll off is now back down in highway doing street maintenance for the community. And I can assure you the requests aren't getting less for the maintenance and the work that needs to be done throughout this community. So there will be a savings there because that's certainly a position that I wouldn't need to ask this committee for, seeing I didn't ask for any staff this year, because this trial is working out very well. As I met with Woody earlier today, there was probably about 2 weeks of hiccups, and every day I see Wade and I'm up there. He always reassures me that Bobby, the driver at BP, is working out really well for us. So with that said, you know, that's pretty much the coverage or the justification for that increase, aside from the actual expenses of solid waste itself. You know, obviously the tonnage goes up every single year. A major increase we had just recently received was our glass. We were paying $65 a ton, and we are now paying $165 a ton. And that's just an industry standard. I've called colleagues, I've looked at different facilities to get rid of it, and it's just nothing's getting cheaper. I do think there's a light at the end of the tunnel. I know there's a lot of stateside facilities for recycling that are under construction, and hopefully by the end of 2024, early 25, there'll be and a lot of goods and recyclables and paper and cardboard aren't going to have to be sent overseas, and we're going to be able to recycle that in America, which will trickle down to an expense, and maybe it won't be an increase, but we certainly will see, I think, pricing and recyclables level off.
Do you have an estimate of the savings that we've recovered by going to the contract service rather than managing it all ourselves directly?
No, because as the Collins Center report shows, the salary would be the savings. However, that individual was always paid out of highway, not solid waste. So that was a metric that, it to me, it wasn't true, because it was a lost opportunity cost that individual wasn't working down at highway, doing other roadway projects.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, in terms of just creating a number for the town to understand what we've accomplished, it might make sense to put that together and note that you now are able to free up a resource that cost a certain amount of money, and that's a saving from doing it this way, right?
Right, which I guess to your point, right, is on that Collins Center, what it actually costs for that employee through the OPEB and the insurance and all that, and it's not it's obviously a direct result why we're not seeing an operating budget. Me asking for more labor staff this year.
Right. No, it's just we're thinking in terms of the town meeting and making a really good case to the town for this extra cost. But in fact, we're actually really having savings from it, right? So I think it would make sense if you could come up with a number that would and you could hedge it with assumptions and all the rest. I'm not trying to create a false story here, but I do think that it is helpful to sell to the town when we've approached a way of actually saving money by not spending that money on capital, but also releasing labor for other things in the town. And I think that's a good story to tell, and it's well worthwhile getting that message out. Any other questions that anybody has? Okay, and that's the only other increase that you're looking at, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's very helpful. I appreciate that. Then if there aren't any more questions, then I think we can let you go, Kevin. But thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate that.
Great. Thank you all. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Okay. So now we've got through the budget pieces. I really do think that we have to tell a story here to convince the town to spend money, and that's why I think it's well worthwhile always looking for that story in our budgets. If we think it makes sense, then we want to help the department get that money, and the best way for them to get that is to tell a good story about it. Okay. Do I have any? Oh, I guess we can now go back to the minutes of last week, Peter. Thank you for distributing those. Does anybody have any questions on the minutes? without Gordon Kinder here, we've really gone down in our reviews of these minute meetings.
I prefer to think that he's trained me up to a new standard, and we no longer need him.
Yes, made us better, made us all better.
Very good. Then do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
Move that we approve the minutes of January 17.
Seconding?
Second.
Thank you. Then let's do a quick roll call. Woody?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Marty?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
And Steve?
Aye.
Well, unanimous. Very contentious. Okay. I didn't ask previously for citizens' comments since we didn't seem to have any public attending the meeting. So we'll leave that be. I guess the next question is liaisons. Do we have any other liaison reports? Next week, I think if you saw the note I sent out today, where we pushed the police and animal control budget to next week, and we're going to also have the Board of Selectmen budget presented by Michael Blanchard, our town administrator, and we will have the opportunity to meet our brand new Chief of Police. So I think that's going to be an interesting one. I have coordinated that with Michael, so I don't think we need any other sort of preparation for that meeting. So are there any other business for the squad? We're getting shorter and shorter for these meetings. It's only 7:20 and we're at the end of our agenda.
No complaint.
Obviously, sorry?
No complaint.
Obviously, we aren't packing the meeting enough with reviews. We might be able to have fewer meetings if we didn't have short ones. Well, next week it's going to be a little bit more challenging, so we can leave it at that. Okay. Without any further business, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Second?
Second.
Can we vote by acclamation? I think that's probably the easiest way.
Aye.
Aye. So thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you next week. Bye now.
Thank you.